FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
1989, 20 years ago, what happened?
Well, the Exxon Valdez tanker disaster in Prince William Sound in Alaska. That was, one of the great catastrophes of modern times that really re-energized, I think, the environmental movement and the American public.
10 million gallons, over 10 million gallons of crude oil in a pristine, remote body of water. I Googled around, 500,000 seabirds dead. That's the small creatures, and one or two pods of killer whales virtually wiped out.
Right, and it was also almost 20 years to the date after the Santa Barbara oil blowout of 1969, which was one of the episodes that sparked the beginning of, I think, the modern environmental movement around 1970, precursor of the first Earth Day. And in both cases, what never got much coverage afterwards is both the Santa Barbara Channel and Prince William Sound recovered fairly fast.
Let me read to you John Rogers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Yeah. This is in 1989, within a few days after the Valdez spills all that goo into the Prince William Sound. Quote, discounting the loss of human life that occurred in the events at Chernobyl and Hiroshima, one can liken the impact of the Prince William Sound oil spill to an Alaskan event of similar magnitude.
Yeah, that's sort of typical.
It was never going. It would take decades to recover. That was the general expectation, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you generally saw. I mean, there was a long study done on the Santa Barbara oil spill by USC, and they had pretty much full recovery within about 2 years there of all the wildlife and health of the waters and so forth. Alaska, I think, was a similar time frame. Yeah, I mean, we don't like these things happening, and some of the steps we took, requiring double-hulled tankers, requiring captains to be sober when they drive their ships, things of those kind, I think, are sensible precautions to take.
Is it correct to draw this conclusion from the Exxon Valdez, from this condition of Prince William Sound today? And the conclusion would be, the planet is resilient.
Absolutely, I think that's something that we talk as though the Earth is so fragile that we're endlessly insulting it and it's doomed. And the problem with a lot of environmental thought today is that it's hard to tell when reasonable, if sometimes ill-informed, concern about problems that we create, and we do create a lot of them. It's hard to tell when that concern ends and a certain self-loathing or embrace of doom-saying for its own sake takes over. There's a good example this year, and something I mentioned in the report, is there's some data out of Central America that the Smithsonian Institution is starting to gather and collate. And what they're finding is that secondary forest growth, which is forests that have been cleared over the last century or two, are regrowing at a very rapid rate, maybe faster than we're clearing rainforests in the Amazon and places like this. Well, fine. And
so the mental image that everybody has of a Brazil rapidly being denuded is incorrect.
Well, we don't know.
It might not
be correct.
Okay.
I think my prediction is that in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to change our thinking about forests around the world. We already have seen some new data out of the UN 2-3 years ago suggesting that forest conditions are improving much more rapidly than we think. Still a big problem in poor countries, Africa and Latin America. Right. But the point I was going to draw is that the New York Times wrote up this information, and there was a sentence in the New York Times story that environmentalists were outraged to hear this news. Well, you think about that for a moment. Why, they're outraged to hear good news because it runs against the narrative that everything's always coming to an end. Or, to put a slightly more reasonable construction on it, they think it might lessen our commitment to taking steps to protect forests and species and other things that they want to see us do. I think that's a mistaken calculation. I think environmental concern, rightly understood, is now a settled middle-class value in wealthy countries and will become more so in other countries around the world as they prosper, and that's a key point.